Happy Thursday, everyone. We got a fun work set coming at you today. A little bit of interference from earlier on in the week today, but it's going to be a good time. Before we get to the work set, though, let's talk about the warm-up. We got plank to down dog for 3 to 5, forearm plank rock to really fire up those shoulders a bit, and the chorus for 20 seconds. Side plank reach through for 15 seconds per side, forearm plank 20-second hold. So just bring it all together in that forearm plank. 2 rounds of that to get things fired up, and then we're going to start moving into the lower half of the body into squatting. So we have some pause front squat work, 3 and 3 second tempo, into a jump squat of 20 seconds. This is not for max reps, it's just to get some explosiveness in those legs and continue getting those legs fired up. After that, we have our thruster, 3 and 3 seconds, and then a side lunge of 10 alternating reps. If you want to add a tempo in there, you can. If you don't, that's also fine. We're going to use this again just to really open up those legs, get things fired up, ready to go, and then we'll hit a practice round. And in that practice round, the legs are going to be pretty fired up, but I'll have a couple different options for you guys, focusing in on your push-up and your V-up technique that you guys can use to practice and play with to get yourselves ready. The workout today consists of 20, 15, 10, 15, 20. So we're going to go down and back up again. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. With this work set, you'll do push-ups, dumbbell thrusters, and V-ups. So I have a couple different options for you guys rep-wise. All right, and I'll have that on the bottom of our options piece in our workout description. So check that out depending on your volume that you'd like to take down today. But have some fun with this with you guys. It is a doozy of a workout. I took this one down not too long ago to practice and test it out. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did. But before we get to that, we got to warm up. So let's get you guys ready to go. We'll have some fun today. All right, let's get those bodies ready to go. Let's take the arms up big and tall. We're just going to take those arms straight up. Little shrug. We're going to come back down with the arms and reach to one side. Come back up and reach to the other side. Oh yeah, big stretch. Come back through, we'll scratch our back, reach through that elbow and tricep. Come back up, big stretch. Scratch our back with the other side, big reach. Oh, come back up, big stretch. We're gonna take the arms out to that T position. We'll turn them in gently and turn them out. Good, turn them in and out. Turn them in and out. Big stretch overhead, little shrug. And then from here, bring those shoulders back down, we'll forward fold. Touching those toes, we're gonna walk up the shins. We'll come back down, framing the foot. We'll step back into our lizard, nice and square in those hips. We're gonna take the inside hand all the way up, and we're gonna rotate forearm to the floor. From here, we'll come back up, and rotate forearm to the floor. Come back up, and one more time, rotate forearm to the floor. Good, big stretch up. Plant the hand, and take that outside hand up to the sky. Big stretch. We'll plant the hand down. Step back into that down dog. Setting up those shoulders nice and strong. Open up that upper back. We'll come back into our plank. Step the other foot up. Nice and square in those hips. We'll take the inside hand all the way up. And we're going to gently rotate. Bringing it through. We'll come back up. And rotate, bring it through, come back up, and rotate, and come back up. Plant the hand, outside hand's gonna reach up. Good, come back down, step her back into our down dog again. Setting up those shoulders, we'll walk the heels out a few times just to wake up those calves and ankles. Nice and slow. Taking that time and focusing again on that good, strong, stable shoulder overhead as we walk it back and forth. Good. Come back into our plank, nice and tight. Tiptoe those feet up. Roll ourselves up, big stretch. Big reach. Oh. Reach. Oh. Come down. Let's get you guys fired up. Let's have some fun today. So, pause the video if you'd like to take down some more gentle kind of warm up, some movement. We're going to get you guys going in this first phase, which is going to primarily focus on getting the inner heat going and firing up those shoulders. So pause, rock it, come back and join me. Okay, We're gonna start by kicking off with the upper body and that core work. So we're gonna start by plank to down dogs. So I'm gonna get myself profiled for you guys so you guys can see my hip angle. My hands are gonna go under my shoulders, wide fingers, and I'm gonna push my shoulders to the sky, and I'm going to set that good plank up by pulling those ribs in. So establishing this good shoulder position, I'm gonna pull my hips back. My armpits are gonna point towards my toes / thighs. I'm gonna get that nice overhead position. So holding this overhead position, I'm gonna come back in, finding that good plank position. So pushing through the shoulders, pulling those ribs in. I'm gonna pull back and up into that down dog, finding that nice overhead position again, and again, working to maintain that strong shoulder position as I come back into my plank. So something to keep in mind, we're trying to separate those shoulders a little bit away from each other. So creating space in the upper back and maintaining having that neck. So we're not shrugging up into that neck position. We're keeping the shoulders back and down. So if we push through those arms as we come back into our plank, we can find that position just a little bit easier as we transition from our vertical to our horizontal. Our next movement is our forearm plank rock. So these are kind of fun, also known as the body saw in other variations of movement. We're going to keep our elbows stacked under the shoulder. We're going to push through those forearms. We're going to step back into our plank, and then pulling those ribs in, pressing those shoulders up, we are going to pull forward with our upper body, and I'm going to push back, coming into that position. Pulling forward, keeping those hips and shoulders level, pulling back. And we're really working on that nice smooth pull action. So very similar in terms of that movement that we're trying to engage with our plank leans to the front. So as we pull forward, it's that action of activating through the lat, except we have this forearm doing the pull. So take your time with these. A very challenging piece of this as well is actually coming back. We have to make sure that we're keeping our hips nice and level and we're not shooting them up like we do in dolphin. So we want to make sure as we pull forward, we stay nice and flat, and as we push back, we also stay nice and flat there too. So take your time with these. You have 20 seconds just to move back and forth. There's no allotted time frame, rep frame with this, so just whatever you get in that 20 seconds, take your time. You can also do it from the knees. You're just going to have a little bit more limited range of motion there, and that's okay, but it'll allow you to maintain that good tension and good shoulder position. Next, what we have is our side plank reach through, and we can do this a couple different ways. So first things first, we need to establish our side plank. So we can go through from a nice kind of plank position. We can stabilize and set up that plank through the side with that nice reach overhead, active pressure through the other arm, and we're going to rotate coming through as best we can, and then we come back up into that nice rotation to the sky. We can also lower a knee and do it supported. So we can work on finding that good side plank position with that nice reach. I'm pushing through that balancing shoulder. My glutes are engaged, so my hips are open. I come through, working on that reach, and then I come back through, working on that nice overhead position. Our goal in this side plank reach through is the rotation. So I want you guys to set yourself up in the side plank that will allow you to articulate that rotation the best. So don't worry, it's like, I can do a side plank, but then I can't move very well in that rotation. Don't do the full side plank. Put the knee down, work the rotation, and the two worlds will join together over some time. So focus on that first, get that rotation down, get that balance. It'll build tremendous shoulder stability and strength through the core. Last but not least, we have our forearm plank. So just a nice standard forearm plank, but there's a lot going on. So we're going to come back into this position, elbow under the shoulder, pushing my forearms into the ground. I'm going to step back, pull my ribs in, push my shoulders to the ceiling. And I'm just going to hold this position, maintaining that tension the entire time. Now, holding this position, I can also lower the knees down, which doesn't really give me a lot of kind of reprieve in my core, but it does take some pressure out of the shoulders, which allows me to get that good pressure but I'm still rocking my midsection. So dropping the knees in that forearm plank doesn't change a lot of the engagement we get here in the core, but it does take that a little bit more pressure off the shoulder. So if you need to, go there. Or if you can hold 10 seconds in your toes, hold 10 seconds on your toes, then for the last 10 seconds, lower your knees down so you can still build that time under tension, and over time you'll be able to push that length on your toes just a little bit longer every time. So take your time with that, have some fun with it, really work on those positions, you guys, that good core position, that shoulder activation, because they're going to come in handy a little bit later on. As a quick recap, we have a plank to down dog for 3 to 5 reps, forearm plank rock for 20 seconds, just steady movement for 20 seconds, side plank reach through for 15 seconds a side, and then forearm plank of 20 seconds. So just really work on those positions really well. We have 2 rounds of work. Pause that video, rock it, get that inner heat going, and then come join me for a little bit of squatting. Our next phase of work is really going to investigate and bring out that squat. So if you'd like to do this first round air squat or completely go unloaded, you're more than welcome to. But our first movement today is our pause front squat. So we're going to grab our dumbbell, all right, and we're going to take that dumbbell, we're going to clean it up to the shoulder. Nice and set through that upper body. Our feet are going to be in our regular squat stance. We're going to give ourselves a little bit more engagement into that dumbbell through the upper body to stabilize and create a nice shelf. So our feet are going to be in a nice squat stance. I'm pushing through that dumbbell. I'm going to take my hips to my heels, keeping that body tall. But we're going to work a tempo, so it's going to be a 3-second lower. I pull myself down, 3, 2, 1, and then I stand. Trying to keep that feet flat, weight through the midfoot, drawing the hips down, 3, 2, 1, and I work that good stand up. I'm going to do 3 of those per side. Working on that good squat mechanic with that front squat is going to be really crucial, so really notice how the squat feels today, because we need that in the thruster. So really work on that squat positioning, balance through the feet, knees tracking the toes, because that is going to come in handy later on. Now after that, we get to work on our jump squat. We have 3 different variations of jump squat. We have 20 seconds of work, and by no means is this meant to be super fast and aggressive. We're just trying to get a little bit more explosive and a little bit more heat going in those legs. So we can do one of 3 things. We can work on the foundational movement of the jump squat, which is the air squat. So the same movement we just did with the dumbbell without the dumbbell. Hips drawing back towards the heels, chest is nice and tall, weight is through the midfoot. So I'm trying to stay nice and centered over top of that heel, or that midfoot, sorry. Now, from there I have a non-jumping jump squat. I take the hips to the heels, I stay nice and tall, I drive, whoop, and I pull back into that squat. So I get that explosive drive, my hips and knees open, I pull up onto the toes, and I pull back into my nice squat, but I don't actually leave the ground. I just get that explosiveness and pull back down, like a nice tall finish in a clean or a snatch. Last but not least, we actually leave the ground. So same setup, same squat, I pull down, I drive up, I leave the ground, I land, and then I move into my next rep. So we want to make sure that we're comfortable with our squat stance, we're comfortable hitting that same position every single time, because as soon as we leave the ground, we got to find that same position every time. So make sure we're focusing on good squat mechanics and getting that good drive through the feet. We have 20 seconds of work there just to get some heat in those legs, and then we're going to come back to the dumbbell and we're going to work on our thruster. So our thruster has that beautiful front squat. So we take the hips to the heels, nice tall position, and I stand and press. So I use the legs to do most of the work. So I take it down and use a 3-second eccentric again. 3, 2, 1, and I stand press. So I don't start pressing until I feel that dumbbell starting to leave the shoulder in the rack position. So the legs and hips do the work. The arm continues the momentum given to the dumbbell from the legs and the hips. So we want to make sure we're trying to get that order of operations as efficient as we can, because it will save a lot of arm, and we need our arms in this work set to continue with those push-ups. So we want to make those thrusters as efficient as we can, and we do that by rocking the squat. Last but not least in this piece, we're going to go wide stance. We're going to turn our toes slightly out so that we're kind of like a squat stance, but we're in this wider position. We're going to do a side lunge, and in this side lunge, we're going to focus on squat mechanics. So we're going to keep our chest up tall. We're going to take our hip down towards our heel. So keeping it pretty vertical and keeping that body pretty stacked over top of itself. So we take that hip to heel, working on that vertical torso, keeping those feet flat and pushing through that single leg. What can tend to happen is sometimes as we do this, sometimes we pull our hips back and we turn into a good morning. So we want to make sure that as we're taking the hips back and down to the heel, keeping our torso upright like a squat, okay? As we do this, if you feel that chest starting to dive forward, then we want to stop our range of motion so that we can maintain our posture that we need in the squat and our thruster. So take your time. If you want to add a tempo to that, please do so. You can add a 3-second tempo down, 3 up, a little pause on the bottom. It's up to you. For now, though, there's just 10 alternating reps. But definitely slow it down a little bit so you can really find those pieces that we're trying to show off in our squat. As a quick recap, we have a pause front squat for 3 reps at 3 seconds down, jump squat for 20 seconds, thruster for 3 at 3 seconds, and a side lunge for 10 alternating reps. 2 rounds through that, we got some time to take that down, pause the video, rock it, get those bodies ready. We're going to talk about what's coming up next in our workout. All right, you guys, the 3 movements we have in our workout today: the push-up, the dumbbell thruster, the V-up. So we have 3 exercises, and we have a descending, ascending ladder. So what's going to happen in this workout, you'll do 20 of each, 15 of each, 10 of each, 15 of each, and 20 of each. There's probably going to be some breaking some movement down and breaking the reps down, and that's totally fine. We want to make sure that we're breaking things down sooner than later, especially the push-up. So if the push-up is something you struggle with, or if you're like, I can do them, but I don't have high volumes, start by breaking it down into smaller sets early so that you can maintain those sets later on, and that you're not taken down to like 1, rest for a long time, 2, rest for a long time. Break those sets down sooner than later. Now with the push-up, we have multiple variations we can play with. We can work on the back of a chair. We can work on the back of a, not the back of a countertop, but the countertop, back of couch. Whatever we can need to use to find that kind of elevated surface, we can play with and make sure we're comfortable. But we also have 3 from the floor. So our 3 positions on our push-up on the floor, they stem from our toe push-up. So our plank position to start off with, nice and strong. I come forward and down into this position, and I push up into my nice plank again. So I'm coming forward and down slightly. So I create a little tripod, and my hands and my chin or head are those points of the tripod, okay? A little triangle. Now if we have a toe push-up in terms of the lower, but we don't have the press, we can maintain that integrity of the lower with that push. So we start with the toes, we lower, we drop the knees, push and push. We lower, knees, back to the plank. The hardest part about that, besides that tension we need in the lower, is maintaining that tension when we drop our knees to the floor for the push. It's very easy to disengage the body when we do that dropping of the knees. So really focus on maintaining the pressure into the floor of the arms and that tension through the core as we lower the knees to that knee plank. Last but not least, we have our knee push-up, but we're going to initiate that first setup through our toe plank. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up on our toes, we get the shoulders active, we pull the ribs in, then we lower the knees down to our plank, and then we come forward and down in that good push, and work on still hitting that key tripod position that we talked about earlier on through the hands and the head. So that elbow always stays stacked over top of the wrist as we work through those push-ups on the knees, the toes, or our hybrid combination of those push-ups, pick the piece and the variation that works best for you. I'll also have another variation on the bottom of the workout description, but take that push-up from the floor all the way up to that kind of 45-degree or elevated surface if you need it. Our next exercise is the dumbbell thruster, and we talked about the thruster in great length in our work set. But what we want to think about in our workout, we don't need to use the 3-second eccentric, so you can squat at any pace you need, but we are going to do either sets of 5 if we're using a single dumbbell, all right, so breaking it, switching every set of 5, or if we're using 2 dumbbells, we'll just do the number as is, working through that movement set. So work and focus on that squat. That is going to save your arms for those push-ups later on in the workout. Our last movement is our V-up, and we have a few different variations of the V-up, and it really depends on where you want to go with this. So with our V-up, what we have our full double leg V-up and single leg. So we get ourselves back in our hollow, and we pull our hips and our legs together, and we meet in the middle. We have our single leg V-up, so we keep our legs straight, we try and touch our toe as we come up, but we're also, again, meeting in the middle. So we're kind of bringing our hip and our chest to our hip crease, not just bringing our leg back to our hip crease. We're meeting in the middle of that position. Now our other variations are tuck up. So if you're looking at that going, that straight leg piece is a little bit too much for me, I have the tuck up. We have that nice strong position at the beginning, we come up, we meet in the middle, come back down, meet in the middle, come back down. We also have that same position with the single leg, meeting in the middle position, and single leg. So working with that, it's the same engagement, all right, that we're using for that V-up, but we're staying in a tucked position with that leg. It's a little easier on the hamstrings if we struggle with a little bit of tension in the hamstrings, and or if we struggle controlling the longer levers of the legs coming down. Now if you're looking at that going, ooh, that hinging kind of gets me, I still want that same engagement. We can lay on our back. We pull our ribs and hips together, pulling the low back into the floor, into our hollow up. So we get that little pulse and down. We can also do that with a single leg. But the key thing here is that the engagement comes from the midsection. So we're pulling those ribs and hips in, and that's what pulls the shoulders and the feet off the floor. So it's a very subtle pulse, and we turn ourselves into a little happy or a smiley face with our body. Our next variation we can focus on is a little bit more of a lower body isometric position, upper body focus in terms of engagement. So we pull those legs up into our L, our ribs are pulled in so our low back is in contact with the floor. My arms are reaching towards my toes, and I pull my ribs in, and I come back down. I pull my ribs in, and I come back down. And I'm not using any momentum on that laying toe touch. I'm doing a nice contraction through the core, and then I control the down a little bit so I'm not falling down. I'm rolling my vertebrae back down in place. So keeping that in mind, nice smooth movement set there. All right, they're a little slower, but they're great bang for your buck. Now if you want to go a little faster and focus on that upper body, we keep the legs straight, toes together, and we work on a little bit of momentum with the arms as we work on that pike sit-up. So we're going to try and reach as far down the legs as we can, keeping in mind that as we continue warming up and doing these, our hamstrings might warm up a bit. We might be able to find more range, right? Explore that range as you continue going through those movements, but make sure you're warm, you're ready, because I don't want you trying to reach beyond your range in those first couple of reps and being like, wow, my hamstrings just exploded, right? Take your time, build into that, and really use that to stretch the hamstrings and work on that upper body portion of our sit-up. Again, you guys, I'm going to have some different rep options on the bottom of the workout description. If you're looking at that volume going, whoo, that's a lot, all right, mostly for the push-ups, all right? The push-up volume is what's going to kind of be the deciding factor here. But I want you guys to have fun with this workout. Love the descending, ascending. It's a cool little flow. I hope you guys like this one. Take your time with those push-ups, break them down, work that good squat technique, and pick that V-up option that's going to help further you along building those abilities in the V-up and the toe to bar. As always, you guys have tons of fun taking this down, work for quality, and we'll see you tomorrow for another fun little work set. Bye, you guys.